First though, last Friday and Saturday, one of the world's great violinists was performing one of the world's best-loved violin pieces with the Hong Kong Philharmonic. She's Anne-Sophie Mutter, and she was playing the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto.
Your performances here in Hong Kong this time marked your debut with the Hong Kong Philharmonic Orchestra. What were the concerts like?
Although I'm coming here since decades, literally, with recitals and also with visiting orchestras, but this is my first performance, and I choose a program which is rather adventuresome because it consists also of an Asian premiere of Sebastian Carrier's Time Machines, which is a piece, I think, written 2 years ago for me, and I have premiered in New York. It's also recorded, and it's a fabulous, rather large piece of 7 movements dealing with time and how one can translate time into music.
After touring the world for 35 years, is it unusual for you to have a debut with an ensemble?
Well, there still are orchestras I've never worked with. Like recently I was in Sydney for the first time. I avoided Australia altogether because with the Far East and America and South America and the many places in Europe one wants to visit on a regular basis, and having 2 children and being a single mother, I had to and I have to, carefully watch my time frame and how often I'm away for a long time. So Sydney was in March this year, and now it's Hong Kong. It's not unusual, but of course more usual really is that I go back to the great orchestras with whom I'm concertizing since over 35 years.
Is your preparation any different when getting a classic standard like the Mendelssohn ready for performance as opposed to the Sebastian Carrier that nobody's heard before?
Not really. You know, with the piece we have been all growing up and have listened to, like the Mendelssohn Concerto, it's even more difficult to find your own way, to find your own viewpoints, because it's almost impossible to stay objective. And the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto has a very particular place in my life because, as many young violinists, it was the first virtuosic concerto I was playing already at the age of 10 or 11. And somehow during the period from 10 to 20, I also recorded it with Herbert von Karajan, and my teacher was never quite satisfied with my playing. So when I was in the beginning of 20s and I had my own life and our relationship changed from teacher to really great friend, I decided not to play the piece anymore. I just had it, always was not good enough. And then many years ago, Kurt Masur, for his 80th birthday, or maybe only a few years ago, his great wish as a birthday gift to him was that I would restudy the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto and eventually also play it with him. But coming back to your initial question, no, there is not really much difference between studying a piece which has been there for hundreds of years and a new one, other than, of course, the new one very often is deciphering hieroglyphs and learning a totally new musical language, which can be rather frustrating, but the stonier the path, the sweeter the fruits at the end.
Throughout your career, you've performed with the best conductors, the best orchestras, and paired with the best chamber musicians. What are some of the real highlights looking back at your career so far?
Oh, gee, I don't like to look back. Actually, after the concert is before the concert. It's really very much an athlete's approach to things. Of course, most of the concerts which I was lucky enough to play with Meister Karajan over a period of 13 years until his death were really remarkable. And there are many great moments if needed, I'm happy to look back into, mostly actually related to premieres of contemporary pieces. Because somehow, as an only player and not composer, there is of course a lack of real genuine creativity. And being the muse of composers is as close as one can get in order to be, creative.
Of all the possible projects you haven't yet done, which ones do you find most exciting?
Another premiere, which hopefully will be in 2014, the Violin Concerto by Pierre Boulez, which I'm waiting for, I guess, about 20 years. And I hope that I will live long enough to be able to play the premiere.
Are you optimistic about the position in society of modern classical music?
I remember times when I did my debut in America in 1980 in New York, people would actually walk out of a Shostakovich or a Prokofiev symphony. This is, of course, unthinkable today. So the open-mindedness of the audience as well as the presenters has greatly grown. I'm rather optimistic because there always have been musicians like Guido Kremer, for example, and Juri Bachschmidt, who have been ardent fighters for contemporary music, and the young generation will take that on board. And the audience is rather, I have to say, once an artist has his faithful audience, and that of course also helps contemporary music to, you know, have a good life.